Hey Luca, hey buddy. Good
Hey
afternoon.
Ivar, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on for
Excellent.
improvisation. Welcome.
Thank you.
I wanted to speak with you for a long time um, because we're friends for a long time,
Yeah,
and you are interested in body language, which I think is a
true.
fascinating topic.
It is
Um,
indeed.
so let me just do a quick bio on you. You studied. You're a finance professional. You worked for 15 years in various roles in a lot of different countries. You worked in, you've been CFO and CEO, so heavy finance guy. You've lived in Austria, Vienna, Germany, Denmark, Croatia, Slovenia. So you are Slovenian,
Right,
and you lived
correct.
in a lot of places, studied in a lot of places, France too, um,
Yeah,
and yeah. So psychology and body language is like a special interest for you, which is
it is it's a hobby. I'm actually very passionate about it, but I treat it more like a hobby.
okay, cool. Yeah, okay. So let's jump into it. So basically, you've been
Sure.
you've been dealing with the finance guys, high level. You've been a CEO, CFO. So you're dealing with all these types of people. Of course, you're a human being, so you also deal with people out of the work side. But so basically, let's talk about body language. I think also you're saying it's a hobby, but I think often that is like you learn much more as a hobby because that's a passion of you. You're interested in it.
Yeah, true.
So I think it's really cool. We're going to talk about different situations like work, dating, negotiations, and
Yeah, let's do that. Let's
uh,
do that.
yeah, and let's try and make it like for people watching, so they can get a benefit. Like what's
Absolutely.
in it for them? Like how can I get the girl? How can I get the job? Okay, cool, man.
I-
So
I'm happy to help.
awesome. Okay, let's kick it up. So why did you get interested in body language in the first place? What is that interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things is you mentioned I've been abroad a lot, for almost 12 years. And, when you lose the ability to speak in the mother tongue, you basically switch to something else that helps you to understand people or to get the information that are different from words. And this was the first thing that I realized that maybe I need something else. I need to develop another skill than just listening to people. And another thing is that I had this very good leadership training, and it was pointed out that one of the most important qualities that the leader should have is communication skills. But then again, if you think about it, is more than 80 or 70% of the communication is actually coming through body. So if you want to be a great communicator, you also need to understand, how to use your body that actually conveys the same message as your words. So it's actually supporting the verbal communication. So I started to be very, very interested. And when I got the first book, I still remember it. It's from Peter Collett, Book of Tells. When I started reading it, I just couldn't put it down. I mean, it was just so fascinating. I was like, oh my God, I was missing so much. It's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, when you think about it, just think about it. How many years during the education system you spend on learning the language?
Yeah, almost too much. Different
You
languages
spend
too.
Well, you go to primary school, right?
Yeah,
That's 8 years. Then you go to high school, it's 4 years. Then you go to university and you learn like what? First foreign language, second foreign language, mother tongue, and all that. And then you
yeah,
come to leadership training, and the person who's conducting the training says that 80% of communication is actually going through the body language.
yeah,
So all that schooling for 20% of communication skills, right? So
yeah. I mean, it makes
so
100% sense. Yeah, yeah,
exactly, this was one of the reasons why I said, okay, so there must be something more there. So I just started, reading books and following some very, very good specialists on body language on the LinkedIn, and yeah, that's why.
wow, cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I mean, like, there's we can go through a lot of topics on this, like education system and everything, and there's a lot of things you should learn in the education system or that they don't have. It's the education system. It's so mostly it's so outdated, and this is like another example of another one is like how to increase your memory, like how to learn, how you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like you're learning. But I
Yes.
never had a course about how to efficiently learn. I had to do it myself in like
True.
university, and I was like, oh my god, I can like read faster. I can remember much more easy. There's so many techniques,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But they don't teach you that. So body language is another one of those really big ones, I think.
It is.
That you're missing. Because it accounts for 70 to 80%, and I guess like everything is communication, right? You deal with people all day.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely. You know, the interesting thing about body language is that it's actually coming from the subconscious consciousness. So it's actually coming from the part of the brain which you don't really control. It's like breathing, you know. You don't say, okay, now I have to breathe, and you breathe. You know, you just breathe. It's from your subconscious. And this is the same about the body language. It's actually coming. It's controlled by this subconscious part of the brain. And that's why it's so fascinating. And if you understand at least the basics, you know, it can be really, really helpful. It can be helpful in terms that you recognize what other people are actually subconsciously trying to tell you, although the words are not really matching the gestures or the movement of the body. That's on one hand, on one side, and on the other side, you learn basically how you have to use the gestures, you know, to support the message that is coming out of your mouth. So that's what makes it really, really interesting. And I just want to make another point.
Yeah.
It's very well known that you make the first impression about a person in what, 6-7 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the situation: you are in the audience, and a person walks on the podium. And the person hasn't really started talking, and you already made the first impression about this person.
Yeah. Loser, or this guy's good. Like, look at this guy.
Exactly.
Everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the thing is, so it makes it really, really important that you pay attention to this, because the first impression doesn't go away that easily. You make it in your head, and then you're searching for a lot of clues to either support it, you know, or you neglect it.
Yeah.
And when you think about first impression, what are you trying to answer is, do I trust this person, and do I respect this person?
Right.
So, and that all happens in 6-7 seconds.
Right.
Not much more. So what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to the body language, it's a lot that first you look and then you listen. It's unfortunately like this.
You know, it's funny. You know, like this whole situation going on now. We're just in lockdown. You know, like you mentioned before.
Right.
For the interview, and I'm in France. I'm sitting in Paris. I'm wearing my French, watch here. And Macron, he just had a speech about like 5 days ago about the lockdown, the rules, and everything. And I watched it live. And I think that live stream, a lot of people watched it. I don't remember the numbers, but I remember seeing later on YouTube a video like where a guy like decoding his message via the body language. Right. And that had like more than 1 million views.
Right.
And
it is.
France has not that many people. How many people in France? 60 million? I might just completely show my ignorance now. I think it's something like that. And 1 million. I think probably maybe more people watch the live stream of Macron. But a lot of people watch the body language because they want to figure out, what is actually going on here? Like, what is he actually conveying? And you can. And can you fake it? Can you fake the body language? Or I guess you can. It's hard, right?
Sure you can. I mean, politicians are taught. They have extensive trainings on how to use their body language in order to support their words.
Yeah.
For instance, there's a very good TED talk from Amy Cuddy on the internet. You may watch it. She's actually talking exactly about that. I mean, how you can use or fake the body language to actually support the messages, and how you can actually use it to also make you feel a little better.
Yeah.
You know, because it's known that.
Did we lose Luka? We lost you for a second, Luka. I think if you can repeat, we lost like 2 seconds.
All right.
He said it's
so what
known.
I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say, yes, you can use it and you can fake it for sure. But the thing is, you can't do it for long. All right. It's the reason why it's very easy. It's very easy to fake whatever you have on your face.
Right.
All right. So because it's close to your brain, you are aware of it. You can control it. So that's why you have poker face, you know, a very known expression, or you have fake smile, also very known expression. But the parts of the body which are further away from the brain, those parts are very difficult to control. You can control it for a while, but you tend to forget about them. That's why a lot of, for instance, FBI agents will tell you, also there's a great book about it, will tell you that if you want to spot a liar, or if you want to see if somebody's telling the truth, you need to look at their feet.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, don't look at their face, don't look at their eyes. They're important, I'm not saying they're not, but the movements with feet will usually tell you what's really going on, because they're the further away from their brain. You forget about it, and usually they're controlled by the movements of feet are usually controlled by the subconscious. So it means that this is where the truth is coming out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And also, you know, just thinking now from one experience, I know that like as you behave and move your body and your postures, they influence your mental thinking too. So if you're like depressed or don't feel good, if you do like a power pose, stuff like this, it triggers. It's also you know in the subconscious, but it triggers, you know. So you change how you think too and feel based on how you move and stuff. So that's also another added sort of importance to how you move your body and everything. So are there any, like, because there's some body languages, you know, it's for people out there that don't really, I'm not so aware of this. Do you have like 1 or 2 or 3 like easy go-to tricks, or what would you focus on mostly? You know, if people say I want to improve my body language, of course there are different situations, but do you have like some sort of go-to things, like the most important things that you should pay attention to?
Well, usually when I do the trainings, I focus on 2 things. I mean, because body language is a very, very huge topic. We can talk half a day about it. Especially when we start, you know, on the face and facial expressions. I mean, I don't know how many muscles there are on the face. So, you know, to analyze all that and the movements of the eyes and sort of that we can talk for half a day. So what I usually focus on is a handshake, and I'll tell you why. In my opinion, handshake is extremely important because it's probably the only time when you will have the opportunity to touch the person you're talking to. All right. So during that touch, during that moment when you touch the other person, you want to convey as many messages as possible. So it's not just the how much you squeeze the hand. There's a lot more. It's how you position your palm. Is it rotated up, or is it rotated down, or do you do the glove shake? So that means that you also grab a person with the other hand, or do you grab it by the elbow? Do you grab it by the shoulder? So there's so many things. And in that moment, when you actually touch that person, you want to make sure that you convey as many messages as possible. So that's one thing. So I focus a lot on the handshake. And the other thing is I also want to explain to people that legs and feet are further away from the brain, which means that if you observe that, you may recognize what the person is actually thinking. So those are the 2 things that I really focus on. So handshake and feet. Of course, there's a lot others. I mean, I also get a lot of other questions, but these are the 2 elements that I mostly focus on.
All right. So the feet. What does that tell me then? Like, what should I think in terms of feet? Let's say we're in a group of 4 people and we're all talking.
Right.
You know, I look at the feet. Okay, now what? Like, what does that tell me? What should I look for?
All right, so let's take an example. First thing I want to say is that with body language, it's not just one clue that tells you what the person thinks. It's usually the combination of things. So you should not focus only on one. But for the simplification reason, I'll just tell you. So let's assume that you're at a conference, right? And there's a lady. So you approach her, right? And you start talking to her. So you are under the impression that discussion is really going well. She's giving you a few fake smiles. So you are pretty confident that this is really good. You're doing a good job, right? Oh yeah. I mean, so you jump into it, and you just go on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
I'm going to close this deal any second now. Yeah.
So there's one clue that you need to pay attention. That's
I'm listening. I'm going to adjust the lighting here. But yes, pay attention to.
Sure. So there's one thing that you really need to pay attention, and that's the position of her feet. So if her feet are parallel and both are like parallel and pointing towards you, then it means that the lady is really, really interested. She's interested, and she's gonna stay with you, and she's interested in your discussion. Okay. But as soon as so let me put it. So let's assume that feet are like this, right?
Yeah.
As soon as one of the feet is positioning like that, that means that the lady's next move is gonna be away from you and possibly towards the person she actually wants to talk to. All right. So you talk to her. How shall I say it? It makes sense that here and there you also check her feet, because you will see what she really thinks about the discussion.
Look at my feet.
Now we need to
look at my face. No. So just have an occasional glance, not just like stare at her feet. Yeah.
Well, it will tell you. I mean, if you think that the discussion is really going well, you may reconfirm it by just quickly checking her feet.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So if she, let's say she doesn't know about the feet, but I want to like close a deal with her. Like this is huge, I need this for my job. It's a big bonus on the line here. If I do this with my feet, or like this or whatever, versus like straight to her, do you think she'll, subconscious will pick up like, hey, he's more serious or less serious?
It might.
Maybe.
I mean, they're also. So let's just not focus solely on feet. I mean, this is just. I'm just giving it as an example. There are also other things. I mean, for instance, will she have an open body? Will she have a closed body? So she's going to be like this, closing herself. She's going to be open. Yeah. Will she maybe use I don't know, a notebook or something, and place it in front of her like that, which usually means that she's actually building a wall between you and her, so she doesn't feel really confident or comfortable talking to you, and she doesn't really trust you. So there are a lot of clues that you need to put together in order to understand what she thinks. But what I'm trying to say that the position of the foot is usually telling in which direction she wants to move next.
Right. Interesting. Okay, cool. I got it. The feet. So let's say a different situation. We're at work,
right?
And we have a boss, which is a pain in the ass. He's like this alpha male. Constantly dominating people, touching people when they don't want to be touched. Sneaks up. And is messing with you. Now, if you want to dominate him, maybe that's even a bad idea. But so how do you handle?
Yeah.
Like as a CEO, I don't know. Like we get all the discussion here. Should you? There's so many variables, but what would you do to sort of?
Well, first of all, it's important that we recognize what are the gestures that suggest that somebody is trying to be dominant with you. So usually the one thing that stands out, and a lot of men, unfortunately, do this, is so-called the catapult move, which is basically this.
Okay.
This is very, very known. What it means actually. So you place it like this. So when you're trying to portray dominance, usually trying to occupy as much space as possible. So that's why your elbows go out. So you appear bigger. That's one thing. The other thing is that you feel very confident because subconsciously you are protecting with your hands, with your hands, the most vulnerable part of your body, and that's the neck. So you protect the neck behind. And the other thing is that you clench fingers like this, which means that you are a little bit annoyed or nervous, that somebody is bothering you. So when somebody does that, basically what they're actually saying, if I translate this posture into words, would mean, well, I know everything. There is absolutely nothing that you can tell me that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
All right. So that would be kind of like the message. So this is a standard, or this is very commonly used. And if you recognize that this is a signal of pure dominance, it may help you that the messages or the things that you want to explain to your boss would probably not be heard, because he thinks that you are just wasting his time. So what you need to do, you somehow need to break this. So you somehow need
like
to
a math quiz, quick one.
Exactly. So you somehow need to make him come away from this posture. So what you usually can do. So if you just walked in with some paper, just show it to him immediately. So that will naturally. How shall I say? He will have to lean forward. So you will break it immediately. So it makes sense, just show him something or on a paper or something. If you're sitting and you have a discussion, and during the discussion your boss does that, well, it takes courage to do this, but they say that the good technique is mirroring. So it means your boss does that, you do that. So suddenly he feels
like,
that
what the fuck?
Exactly.
What's going on here? It's confusing.
But if you are a junior person at work, I mean, you probably don't have the guts to do this. So it takes some courage.
Maybe shouldn't do it either.
Well, I mean, if you have something smart to say, I mean, then you probably should do it so that the boss starts listening to you.
Yeah.
But it takes some courage. Usually this is for something that happens among peers. When you see maybe three guys sitting around the table and they all do this, so they mirror each other. So there's kind of like a power battle going on. But somehow you need to find a way to break this posture. So you need to bring your boss to lean forward and to pay attention, to open his body, this is something that you want to do.
Okay, cool, interesting. So basically, what you're saying is that when people try to appear bigger, it's like a dominance, aggression type thing. Even like standing, and you're kind of like, I don't know, if you're like doing this,
exactly,
or touching things, or you can't see now, the camera doesn't capture it. But like if I do like this, I start to like do like this,
Exactly.
Is that like I'm getting bigger now? Like I'm notice that I'm sitting on a park bench and I'm just leaning back and just claiming the whole fucking bench.
That's what I'm trying to. These are all signals of dominance. These are all signals, because one of the things. Think about animal world.
Yeah.
All right. So you have a lion, and the lion is walking around, and he's marking the tree. He's marking his territory. All right. So the bigger the territory, more dominant the lion is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or let me put it this differently. Why do you think that the CEO of the company has the biggest office?
Yeah.
Or he's the only one who's having a big leather chair, or he's driving the biggest car. Or why, for instance,
reflects his insecurity.
Exactly. Or why do you feel more dominant when you sit in a big SUV and you are there on the road and you feel somehow superior to everybody else because you're sitting higher, you're sitting in a big car. So it's all basically psychological effect, and it's the same how we try to position our bodies. And you point it correctly. So the more space you occupy, the more dominant you're going to look. For instance, you showed before that you can have hands on hips. This is a very, very classic example of showing dominance. It's actually coming from times when men were still kind of like So there are two things. Yeah. So first of all, when you have hands on hips, you are opening your body. So all the vital parts of your body are unprotected. So the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the digestion part. So everything is open. So by having hands on hips, you're actually showing to the other person you talk to, look, I'm not afraid of you. I'm totally exposed. All right. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that when you have hands on hips, I mean, you are also in a preparation to engage. And what I'm saying to engage is because, men used to wear weapons around their waist, right? So hands on hips are actually meaning that you are ready to either take your sword or a gun. So you were kind of like in a way of preparedness.
Yeah.
So showing that you are really, really powerful.
Right. Okay. So how about let's say you're in a meeting. There's a lot of people sitting around on the table.
Right.
Is there something to typical things you can observe in the meeting room that sort of exposes or like shows or like I don't know tells you more?
Yeah. So in meetings, what we should pay attention to is very basic thing. Are people leaned forward or backwards? So when people are leaning forwards, means that they are engaged. So they're listening to you, they're paying attention. People who lean backwards mean they disengage from the conversation. That means that probably in their minds they're somewhere else. So what you're trying to do when you're having maybe a meeting and a presentation, you're trying to observe, and if too many people are leaned backwards, that means that your message is not heard. Means that you need to do something, you need to break, you need to make a joke, or you need to do something so that people wake up.
Oh my God, it's terrible. I can't even get my boss to listen to 100 people. How to do this one? You have to I don't know.
So that's one thing. The other thing that I'm usually trying to explain to people that pay attention when people cover their mouth, for instance, like this.
Yeah.
All right. So they're listening to you. They don't say anything. They somehow place their finger through their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So what it actually means? It means that they silently disagree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have the courage to say it. So they subconsciously close or protect your mouth from the words coming out.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So what I usually do if that happens, I pause and I go to that person and I say, well, you maybe have something to say or to add, or do you think differently? And, people then just feel more encouraged to say their opinion. So that's something that you also may pay attention to.
Yeah.
And then you have the classic thing of a thinker, when people just hold like this, a chin. So this is coming from Auguste Rodin statue, the thinker. When you support your chin and you are in a position of really deliberately or really paying attention to what the person is saying, and you're just thinking whether you agree or disagree with that person. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if you take a book of Hillary Clinton, you'll see that her cover is like this. If you take a book of Steve Jobs, you'll see that he's also holding his chin. So this is very, very common position or posture that people use on covers of the book. It's kind of like this or this or that or like this. Somehow holding their chin, it means you are the thinker. It's coming from this Auguste Rodin statue. I mean, he's actually holding like this, I think. There are a lot of things that you can recognize when you talk in a meeting. You can read, who is agreeing with you, who is engaged, who is disengaged, who is thinking the same as you, who hasn't made his opinion yet, and things like that. So there's a lot of things you can pick up just from observing people.
I'm thinking now, I'm getting conscious of myself. Like, how am I like? Did I touch anything? You know what I mean? If I started doing this and you try to explain it.
That's the thing. I mean, you think about it now. You think about it now, but
arrogant.
I mean, you can't really control it. I mean,
no,
exactly. It just happens,
So do you even want to control it? I mean, do you want to be like this crazy manipulator that just like it doesn't,
Well,
like you said as well, it doesn't work either, right? So I mean, I don't know. So what's the
well,
purpose of it then? To like, I don't know, I guess to understand the situation better.
well. The thing is, I mean, when you are in the meeting, it's hard to really have your body language under control throughout the entire duration of the meeting. It's
Mm,
almost impossible. You
right.
know, if you want to follow the subject, and also if you want to say something, it's just there's there are too many things that you should pay attention to.
Yeah.
And then just understanding, or being able to read it, it's a huge advantage.
Right.
uh, usually, if somebody is not telling the truth, um, he or she, usually men do that,
Mm-hmm.
they start talking through their finger like this. you know it's kind of like when a child, for instance, when a child does something, and you as a parent walk into the room and say, what happened? Well, the child does nothing, covers their mouth, so they protect their mouth from the words coming out. And it's very similar with older people, only when you are holding your finger like this and still talking, it could mean that you are thinking something else, or you are saying something that you don't actually think.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So how about men, women? Is it a difference in body language there?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, there are differences. There are differences. Although, I mean, we all somehow, you know, portray similar messages, although we're using different gestures.
Mm-hmm.
The research shows that men touch their face far more than women. For instance, rubbing nose, or touching mouth, or rubbing ears, or touching neck, or even going through the head, or things like this. I mean, we need to understand that women are wearing a lot of makeup and also a lot of jewelry, so it's more inconvenient for them to touch their face. You don't want to do this and then you have lipstick all over your face.
Sure.
Things like this.
Yeah.
So men do that a lot more. So they portray a lot of messages through touching their face or head. While women, when they talk, they tend to use a lot of movements with their hand. So they're trying to articulate the
Mm-hmm.
message with the use of their hands. They do it much more than men. For men, the research shows that you just want to place your hands in a pocket or hide them behind your back. But women use them very well to actually support the movements of their hands, to support the verbal message.
Mm.
Yeah, that's why also sometimes some of the female reporters are much more convincing when they report about certain situation, because they really nicely support the message with the movements of their hands. And that's been known that women can really do this very effectively. So
Right.
yeah, there are differences. There are differences between men and women, the way we do it. But as I said, or another thing, yeah, just came to my mind. For instance, men were trying to be dominant, or they're trying to show to the ladies that they are macho. uh,
Mm-hmm.
they usually, we call it a kind of like an open crotch position. It means
Mm-hmm.
that you spread your legs widely, so you put your crotch on a display.
Wonderful.
Now the ladies can't do that, right?
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah, yeah. No, I wouldn't do
it,
it.
it
I would
wouldn't be. imagine
no.
imagine she's wearing a skirt and suddenly she does
That's,
the.
oh. Like one woman did it once in what was the movie called? Basic Attraction? No, Basic Fatal Attraction. No, what is it called? Basic Instinct.
Basic instinct.
And everyone remembers this scene forever.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I
So
know.
one woman, she did it. Yeah, she didn't have panties on though, so that was slightly different. But yeah, okay, yeah, wow. Okay, so let's talk about dating, different situations. We talk about work, dating. So you know, uh, So yeah, so I mean, let's say you're sitting in a bar or in a wherever restaurant, and you see a woman, and you're like, oh, she's really nice, she's really cool, I like her.
Yeah.
Is there anything you do to sort of in a
Right.
nice way
Yeah.
without appearing aggressive or going to her and talking to her? Like what would sort of be, or even not just like a woman, but like people in general to sort of you know show
Well,
interest or
yeah,
stuff.
I get a lot of questions on dating,
Yep.
especially from younger population. Once I remember I gave the presentation on body language in a school. So
Mm,
imagine what kind of questions I
of
got. I
course.
mean, they were not interested in body language in meeting or
No,
negotiation and things.
I've never
All they
even been
wanted
to
to
a
know
meeting
is just
before. Yeah.
they only wanted to know the gestures for dating. So yeah, so
Yeah.
let's elaborate on this what you said. So the lady is sitting at the bar, okay? So she is having a drink, and she's
Oh,
sitting there alone. So you find her attractive and you approach her. So so what could be? So you approach her from the side. Let's say that you approach her from this side. All right.
mm,
So so immediate no would be if you start talking to her and the lady just turns her head and makes absolutely no movement with her body.
mm.
That means,
That's
your
good.
start was not really good. So what you're
Uh,
trying to do is
uh,
that the lady turns the body towards
yeah.
you, all right? Turns the body. So that's the first thing that you're trying to accomplish. So if she doesn't do it, then there are very, very slim chances that
Yeah.
this discussion will last a little
We'll
longer than 2 minutes. All
suffer.
right. So
Yeah. Yeah. Keeps you
that's the
like
first thing. Exactly. So if so let's assume that she's also sitting on a bar, right? So now she turns. All right. So she's looking at you, and she crosses her legs. All right. Now the important thing is how she crosses her leg. If the knee is pointing away from you, that means she's probably gonna leave in the next 3 to 5 minutes.
yeah.
If the knee is pointing towards you, that means she is interested. So she wants to hear more.
Okay.
All right. And then you have all other clues. She starts playing with her hair. That means that she's enjoying the discussion.
Mm,
Then another clue is that women quite often do is the tilt head. So that means they put a head on the side. So then she's
mm-hmm.
like looking at you. So what it means is actually she's exposing her neck. It's like you are a Dracula. So she's like
Yeah.
inviting you to bite her into
Wow.
her vein. So that's just what she's actually. This is the message she's giving to you. So
Uh-huh.
she is placing herself into a submissive
Wow.
position,
Sure.
right? So she's letting you to be the dominant person, and she is basically tilting her head. By tilting her head, she's making herself look a little smaller, and she's exposing her neck. So she is saying to you, "Look, I'm very vulnerable right now, so you are free to bite. Here it is." All
I
right.
got it.
So then,
Okay.
then
Yeah.
she's gonna move. Maybe she's gonna move her hair on this side, so make it even more visible
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the neck. Yeah.
All right.
And then you have also other clues. If the evening goes on and you have a couple of drinks and all that, then you may observe how she's gonna play with her glass. So, for instance, I have a glass here, and so the glass is like this. So the bartender just pours a little bit more of vodka inside, and she suddenly starts doing this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all know what
So
that means.
yeah, you know what that means.
So it's like,
So
okay,
she may
lady,
start playing with a little bit of a
I
glass like
just want to
this.
say
All right.
hello. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
So
just,
this is what
yeah.
this is what the ladies will do. So how will men act?
So if the guy starts doing that, as I speak to him, I have to start preparing my exit. Or be like, wait a minute. No, no, no. Should I be,
So
no,
so what will
big
men
guy.
do? So there's a
Yeah.
lady. So she's now doing all these signs. So
Uh-huh.
how should she pick up the sign for a man? So a man will
Yeah.
try to look a lot like macho. So
Right,
so he will try to occupy as much space as possible. That's one
right.
thing. The other thing is he's gonna probably sit on the chair, on the bar chair. Now the lady, her legs will most likely be crossed, and the knee will be pointing towards you. What the guy will do, he will sit on the chair and he will open his legs. All right. So he will try to show as much of his crotch as possible.
Yeah.
All right. So subconsciously, he will try to demonstrate to the lady that there is something to see, and
Yeah.
he will try to do everything. So what he will
Doors
do,
open.
he will sit, and he will just I don't see it really well. Hold on,
Yeah.
let me move the camera.
Uh-huh.
So what the guy will do, he will put it like this, so he'll sit and
Yeah.
that. So also with his with his arm, he's
Yeah.
tried to point
Get
down
bigger.
to the crotch,
Also, it's like an
Yeah,
arrow.
exactly.
Yeah.
At the same time, try to occupy as much space as possible, and make sure that the lady is aware of the where the hand is pointing.
Okay. Cool. Hmm.
So there's a lot of things that can go on, and it it helps if you can recognize those signs.
Right. I remember a friend of mine, Stephanie. She told me once she was like mirroring me, or
Uh-huh.
I don't remember if she mirrored me or she mirrored someone else. At least she told me like to get a person more interested for whatever it is, not necessarily dating, but like even like negotiation or talks.
Yeah,
There's something I remember. Maybe I'll just share it with you, and you can comment. So first one thing is mirroring. So if I mirror you, uh, then automatically in your subconscious mind you would be like, he's more interested because we are like the same. Is that true, or
well,
do you know that? Do you think it depends?
no, well, it is and it's not. I mean, sometimes mirroring is also used as a technique to make somebody else to see what he or she is doing.
Yeah.
As it is with the for instance a dominance thing. I mean, you want to break the dominance part of
Mm.
somebody else, so you start doing the same so that this person becomes aware
Right.
that
Sure.
this is
Yeah.
not okay. But yeah, it could be as well as what you're saying. I mean, that you do the mirroring so that the person kind of like feels you a little better.
Yeah. Like we're the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the same gestures. Then how about if you try to convey honesty, maybe in like a job interview, that you want to like have palms open?
That's right. So when it comes to job interviews, of course you're very nervous. So the
Hmm.
last thing you want to do or you want to avoid is clenching your fingers. So this is a lot of candidates do that. It's a very very known sign of being nervous or having this hidden kind of like anxiety. So you're squeezing your fingers, so almost you have no blood in your fingers. So this is something you don't want to do. If you really want to place your hands together, then just do it like this. It's much better. So a job interview, just try to have a body really open. Don't cross
Hmm.
your legs. Don't cross your arms. Just be very open and
Hmm.
try to sit upwards. Don't try to go like this.
Yeah. Shoulders back,
Sit
up
upwards.
straight.
Yeah, straight upwards, chin up, because it demonstrates also your confidence.
Hmm.
Because in a job interview, you want to appear confident, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and you want to do that. And if you say something, if you explain something, then have palms like this open. Just help. Don't put them down, because if you talk and you do it like this, as the hand is down, it's a sign that you are trying to be yeah, how shall I say? If the palms are open, it means that you are an honest person and you have nothing to hide. That's why your palms are open. That's why when you come to a room and the child does something and you say, "What did you do?" and he's saying, "I didn't do anything." It shows your palms and shows I have nothing to hide. I'm not hiding anything, honestly. And then the parent comes and the parent says, "You need to do this and this and this." So it's very, very dominating part. So once you turn the
Hmm.
palms down, so try to open the palms, explain it with the openness.
Hmm.
The message that you're trying to say will come out as more warm rather than
Right.
directive.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Cool. So those are good tips. Yeah. How about to show that you're really smart? I mean, clearly, you probably expose yourself if you're not that smart and you start speaking. But
Well, yeah,
or in general, job interview, firm, good handshake, look them in the eye, back
well,
straight.
you want to look smart. There are two things. The first thing is, um, as we already said, I mean, supporting your chin. This is
Yeah.
the thinker thing. So when, for instance, somebody's talking to you, you just do that and you say, oh, yeah, that's very, very interesting. You know, it appears like you are sucking all the information that you're getting.
Yeah.
And another thing is a steeple. You know, it's when you place your hands like this, you know, like that.
Yeah.
That that's something that is very it's commonly used by Angela Merkel, or it's also used by Trump very often when he sits. It's a steeple. It's a kind of like a message of extreme confidence. When the fingertips are just joined exactly, so you talk and you talk like this. Yeah. Exactly. It's exactly what you're doing. Yeah. So like this, and you know. It's
spoke like this. It feels weird. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I've ever used this speaking.
Just if you go to Google for instance, and you type in, I don't know, G8 or G20 photos, they look, usually Angela Merkel was gonna stand in the center, and just look at her hands. I mean, she's using this very, very often.
Cool.
So it's kind of like a message of confidence, because there are not a lot of women, so usually she's alone, and she's trying to the message she gives to men. Look, I may be the only woman here, but you know, I'm very confident. I'm not afraid of you guys. You know, I'm a confident leader. This is kind of like the message she's trying to convey.
Cool. Okay. Good. And then, so we talked about dating. We talked about job interview. How about like negotiations? Do you have any tips there?
Well, you know, I just want to point out one thing. I mean, I'm also having these training sessions for salespeople.
Oh, let's talk about sales.
So, you know, there are a lot of trainings about, you know, how to have the really effective visit. For instance, in pharma, you know, there are people visiting doctors. So there are extensive trainings, you know, what you need to focus on, how to prepare, how to do the closing, and all that. So companies develop really almost science. It's almost science out of that. And I took an opportunity to spend quite some time with people on the field, observing, you know, how those messages are conveyed. Now, if you want to convey a perfect message, then you also need to make sure that the person on the other side is receiving this message. You may do everything right. You may prepare yourself perfectly. You have perfect message. You do, I mean, really outstanding closing. But if the message was not received by the person sitting on the opposite side, you didn't do anything. And this is what I'm trying to explain to salespeople is be aware of the signals that the person is giving to you. If you come to a doctor, you know, and a doctor is the whole time sitting like this, you know, you may do everything right, but the person did not hear what you wanted to say. Because as we said earlier, this in words means I know everything. There's absolutely nothing you can teach me. So what you need to do, you need to break this. All right. So you need to do something to break it. So, you know, I'm trying to explain to salespeople that, you know, it's fine that you train and that you have all the steps of the visit under control, but you also need to pay attention that your message was received. It's not enough that you just when you finish the visit that you feel good about yourself because, you know, it really went well. You need to ask yourself, was the message received? And in order to do that, you need to observe the other person, and here body language becomes really handy. If you recognize, if you see, well, did the person move backwards? That means you lost the person. That means you're saying something that the person doesn't understand. Is the person doing this? That means the person is really nervous. So maybe the person has a question, or maybe the person doesn't really get it what you're saying. or different things. I mean, is it moving in that direction, is moving in that direction, or is it not doing the eye contact? Is it giving you the power lecture or whatever? So you, if you are equipped also with this kind of knowledge, there is a much greater chance that the message that you are trying to convey is also going to be received by the person you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Correct. I guess, yeah. No, it's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it doesn't make much sense that you walk into the room and talk to the wall, you know, because that may happen, you know, that maybe a doctor had an annoying phone call, for instance. All right. Now you walk into the office of this doctor and you start talking about your drug. And the doctor is leaned backwards. He's like this, and he's not listening to you, you know. He's still with his mind, with his thoughts. He's still at the previous phone call. Yeah. Maybe he's irritated. Maybe so. You need to recognize this, because you may do a perfect job, but the doctor will not get it, and that means that the time that you spent there was just wasted.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. I mean, I guess all this applies to, you know, things like relationships and marriage, or just relationship in general. With your wife or your husband or your kids, and like you have to, it's basically about communication. I'm like, you know, yeah. Are you using this actively in your marriage or with your kids? You know,
yeah. Let me do it like this. You know, I catch myself many times in meetings, you know, doing the beginner's mistakes. You know, not mistakes, but when I just, you know, catch myself that I know what I'm thinking or what I'm portraying, the messages I'm giving, you know, and then I correct myself, and then for maybe a minute or two I'm aware of this, and then I go backwards. So that's the beauty of body language. That's the thing that is coming from a subconscious part of the brain. You know, you just forget about it. You just, you know, so yeah, I mean, it helps sometimes, you know, when my wife walks into the kitchen or something, that, you know, before she starts talking, I already know, is it a good message or is it a bad message? So it helps me. It gives me maybe 2-3 seconds to prepare myself. Is this going to be like, whoa, or is this going to be like, I don't know, something good, you know?
Yeah.
So,
okay. So, yeah, cool. I guess it is. Yeah, you use it everywhere. It's just like, you know, communication with everyone, and since we're all human beings, we all share the same sort of body languages, so it's applicable to all kinds of situations. Although, of course,
you know, a few days ago, with my wife, we're watching news, okay, and it's a funny thing because there was an interview with a lady. It's with this coronavirus, and she was saying, well, we are, and I'll just tell you and then I'll explain what it means. So she said, yes, we have right now put all our doctors on the field, and we are doing everything we can.
Yeah.
What did you recognize?
Yeah, you were like shaking your head.
Exactly. So she was saying, exactly. You see, you recognized it.
Yeah, so well, I was aware of it now because you were prepping me. I know. Yeah, I was looking for signs, but I'm not sure if I would pick it up if you hadn't. So, you know, yeah.
So when I saw it, I immediately said to my wife, says she's lying. She's like, how can you say that? She was angry with me that I'm judgmental or something. I was like, just observe her. You see, when she's talking, she's trying to tell you she's doing this. So she's neglecting herself. Her body language is saying that's not true. Mm-hmm. It would be a lot different if she would say like this, you know, and then would say, okay, her movement of her head is also supporting her messages coming out of her mouth. But like this, her subconscious was saying, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of clues that you can pick up. I mean, you know, I enjoy observing politicians, for instance, when they come for a visit, and then you see and you can recognize, you know, how the power battle is going on, and you know, how they shake their hands. For instance, very interesting was when Trump was visiting Macron in France. You remember that handshake?
No, can't say that I do.
Okay, so this is this
I
was
think I know where this is going. I think I remember it. But please
it was
elaborate.
it's a famous thing when they were handshaking and Trump just didn't want to let go, of the
Ah,
handshake,
okay.
because it's known that the longest you hold the handshake, the more you're in control, the more you're trying to convey the message of being powerful. That's why you have the shaking of the glove. You give a hand and then you just lock it with the other one and then just shake it. And you shake it as long as you want. That means you are in control. So yeah, that was also one thing that was really funny to observe.
So what, they just kept on going? No one wanted to
Oh
stop?
yeah, he was just holding his hand and just walking around, and Macron was just like like a puppet flying around, and he was just walking and
Like
now
walking a
talking to
dog?
Melania and talking to people there,
Yeah,
and he was just
interesting.
holding
Wow.
his hand. Yeah,
It's like, yeah, wow. Yeah,
exactly.
I guess, yeah, yeah, cool. All right, so I think we've covered a lot of topics. We've been going on for 55 minutes, 56.
Yeah,
So, did we forget any topics? Did you have anything else you want to, mention in this?
maybe just. Do you know where handshake originates from?
I want to say, no, I'm not sure. Middle East or something,
Well,
or England.
actually from Roman times.
Ah, didn't they
Um,
do like this
so
one?
exactly. So they were holding like this, but you know why?
Probably because they didn't want to touch the hands, because
Well,
the
the
hands
reason
was
why
used
the
for
reason
something.
why
I'm not
is
sure.
because if you remember, there were Roman soldiers, right? They had
Yeah,
this
yeah.
protection here, the leather thing that covered this, right?
Uh huh.
Which helped them to
Yeah, yeah,
hold the,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
the hits from sticks or something, right?
Yeah.
And this was a great place to hide a small knife inside.
Mm-hmm.
So by grabbing like this, you just touched whether the person is also hiding something here inside,
Mm-hmm.
inside
Okay.
this protection. All right. So for instance, you could see this in that movie Gladiator. When they
Mm-hmm.
had the knife here and he stabbed the guy. All
Yeah, yeah.
right. So they had it like this, and then slowly, 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 it became shaking like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
this
Yeah.
is this is and also in Roman times, by shaking the hand before there were no contracts. So the way people sealed the deal was
Mm-hmm.
actually to shake hand, because there were
Yeah.
no contracts at the time. So they shook hand and said, "Well, this is now we sealed the deal."
Mm-hmm.
It was shaking hands. So yeah, but we also have a Greek handshake. The
What is
Greek
that?
handshake. The Greek handshake is when the guys are like how shall I show it, like like that, and then you place your hand here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
You know what I mean? Like you
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 mean like rappers? Like, what's up?
yeah,
Something
yeah,
like
yeah,
those?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they meet up there and stuff. Like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
those kind of
exactly. And then it's like this,
like going for
right?
the guy thing.
That's called a Greek handshake. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
coming from Greek wrestling. It's kind of like a macho handshake
Mm-hmm.
where you expose your biceps. When you squeeze it, you really squeeze it, you expose your biceps. And it's kind of coming from this arm wrestling. So basically, two
Yeah.
guys, when you're giving hands, they're also imaginary a little bit arm wrestling, see where
Mm-hmm.
you are. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like
Cool.
really funny. So ladies don't do this. I mean, they don't
Yeah. It's
use
very
this handshake.
masculine. Very
Very
macho.
much guys do, and
Right.
it's called a macho handshake. That's also
Yeah. I don't think
interesting.
I've ever seen any women do that ever.
Me neither. Me
Or
neither.
like
That's
female MCs. I'm not sure.
can
Yeah.
you imagine? Can you imagine you go for a date and there's a girl and comes to you and gives you like handshake like this? Hey, buddy.
Yeah. It's like a buddy. So like a lesbian, a macho lesbian, potentially.
and then
Yeah.
and then and then you check the biceps and
It's
it's
like
like bigger than
dominant
yours.
too.
You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Oh
oh.
yeah. If you like. Yeah. It's such a disgrace. Yeah. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah. Cool, man. So did we cover everything?
I mean, we could go on, but
Yeah.
there are a lot more than things. I mean, maybe just one thing that
Yeah,
I
yeah. How
want.
about like one more thing I would ask? Maybe this is the one. So like, today we use our phones, Twitter, Facebook. We see each other less, especially now with this
Yeah.
situation. You don't hang out with people. It's more, I'm doing a lot of Skype. I'm talking
Yeah.
to friends. I'm hooking up. We're gonna, like, yesterday I had like a online meetup, like online for people, and
Yeah.
tonight we're gonna talk to some friends, 5 6 people. We're gonna have like a chat, even like parties. You drink. So how does that affect the modern woman and man? How does that affect
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I also get this. I mean, is body language uh, losing on its importance
Emojis.
when we are communicating a
It's
lot more
emojis.
through
Right? It kind of replaces it a little bit. Emojis, maybe. But I'll let you speak. Yeah.
No, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that usually when I get a question like this, I say, well, until you will have to kiss a girl,
Mm-hmm.
body language will play an important role.
Right.
All right. I mean, we can't kiss over Twitter or Viber or WhatsApp or Instagram, right? So we
Sure, it's
still
the
need to do
same.
it in person. So until we have to do this,
Mm-hmm.
I think body language will have still a very important role.
Yeah.
However, there was a study done by UCLA, which proved that millennials they already have 10% decreased ability to recognize emotions from a person they talk to.
Okay.
The reason why is because when you get a message, people use those emoticons, and
Yeah.
they tell you, or they write, "I'm sad," or this and that. So they are not really. I mean, they have decreased ability to recognize whether they hurt their feelings or how they actually feel. They can't really recognize this from your face,
Mm-hmm.
and that is something that really worries me. Because in the past you were observing a person and you were able to recognize. So you came to a person and say, "Is everything okay?" I mean, you saw a person feeling bad, and now, I mean, they just pass you. Nobody asks anything, because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't specifically say to the person, "I feel sad," they will not be able to recognize that.
Yeah. Right.
And that worries me.
Yeah. Well, let's see where all this is going.
Yeah.
Um,
See.
okay, cool. Did you want to add something? Or was that the thing you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered a lot of things.
Cool.
I think was enough for one call. I mean, we can
Yeah.
have
We did
another
an hour
recording
now.
on a specific topic if
We did an
necessary.
hour. It's good.
An hour?
It's a
Oh
good
my
hour. We
God.
did an hour. An hour, 2 minutes.
Oh Jesus. All right.
Uh, so let me ask you one last question. So is there like a top book or something, like resource? Where would you go if people want to learn more? Like, do you have a book author, expert?
Yeah, there are a lot of things going around. Joe Navarro, for instance, he wrote a book. He was the ex-FBI agent. He wrote a book,
Mm.
"What Everybody is Saying." That's an interesting one. Peter Collett, I mentioned, he wrote the Book of Tales. Alan Pease, he has
Book
a
of
great book.
Tales
Book
or
of Tales,
Tells?
yeah, yeah,
Tales. Okay.
Tales,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of books out there that you can read. There are also a lot of things going on online. You have also
Right.
LinkedIn trainings on the body language. So there
Mm-hmm.
are a lot of things that you can do. You just need to recognize that this may help you in your life, and you can find a lot of interesting things online.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. And I think I already know the answer to this question, but if people want to follow you and learn more about body language from you, do you have like a Twitter or Facebook or
No,
something? You don't have
no,
one,
no,
right?
not,
You don't have
not
one.
yet, not
You
yet.
don't really follow. Okay. Not yet. Okay. Yeah. All right, man. Luka, great talking to you.
Ivar,
Buddy,
was great talking to you as
yeah.
always.
Thank you so
As
much.
always. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, man. All right.
All right.
Till the next one.
Sure.
Stay safe. Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Cheers.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Ciao.
Bye.